And what's going on, everyone? I hope we're all doing well. And welcome back to the 7th episode of DC Character Histories. Now, I'm having a lot of fun doing these, especially too when I get characters like this that, I'll be honest, I don't really know all that much about. Now, I don't really expect other people to know much about this character too, since he is very brief in the DC universe. He only lasted from 1994 to about the year 2000, so that's only about 6 years. Now, before I get into it, I just want to remind everyone, if you do like my videos, or if you like this video in particular, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing if you want to stay up to date with future content. Okay, now on with the episode. So this one is all about a character named Triumph. And Triumph was a rogue superhero and a founding member of the Justice League. In a certain timeline, that is. He's arrogant and hot-headed, and he always thought he was destined for great things. Triumph's time was short-lived, but let's see what type of stuff he got up to. But just before we do that, like usual, let's look at his character data. So his first appearance was in Justice League America, number 91, which was August of 1994. His real name is William McIntyre. His base, where he's usually located, is the Justice League Watchtower. He is 6'1" in height, 200 pounds in weight. His eyes are blue or white and hair is blonde or white. So I would assume that when he's not using his powers, it's blue and blonde. And when he is using his powers, his eyes and hair go to both white. And speaking of his powers, his abilities are electromagnetism, energy absorption, energy projection, flight, invulnerability, and a couple of other abilities that electromagnetism does allow. His allies are the Justice League, Justice Society International, and Justice League Task Force. And his enemies are, in fact, the Justice League and Justice Society, and you'll understand that as I get into his history. And well, speaking of his history, William McIntyre lived with his mother. They constantly moved from town to town because his father was a criminal. Since he and his family never stayed in one spot for too long, William never had the opportunities to meet friends and have people around him. He became extremely introverted, but also wildly intelligent. As a young teenager, he began to develop abilities and could control anything on an electromagnetic spectrum, which could give him tons of different abilities. Deciding to become a superhero, he prepared himself for the role over the years and gave himself the name Triumph. William, now as an adult and experienced as a solo hero, Triumph, now faces aliens who have attacked Earth. Triumph manages to gather and recruit Superman, Green Lantern, The Flash, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, and Black Canary to save the world. So essentially, he successfully created the Justice League of America in that moment. But the team quickly failed and fell apart since Triumph analytically had a good plan to defeat these aliens, but his lack of strong leadership was the problem. He used the other heroes more as pawns or bait rather than actual teammates. Triumph decided to sacrifice himself to save the Justice League and the rest of the world by attacking the aliens' main energy weaponry and charging it up with his electromagnetic powers. He used so much energy that the mix of his powers and the aliens' tech created a tear in time, a time stream. This was a self-correcting time stream that sucked Triumph in and reverted the timeline back to what it was naturally supposed to be. Triumph was erased from all existence. And I mean, it makes sense. We all know Triumph is not a Justice League member, nor the founder of the League itself. Now, in 1994, there was a timeline event in DC called 0 Hour. It was just another storyline where they could explore multiple futures or alternate timelines. And after a decade of being placed in an interdimensional stasis, Triumph returned and was ready to retake his place amongst the heroes of the Justice League. Unfortunately for him, when he returned, there was no record of him at all. Any friend, ally, or acquaintance he ever had has never seen him before in their lives. With his sudden reappearance, the aliens he was fighting when he was erased from time also came back to reality. Triumph convinced a very skeptical Justice League International team to help him stop the threat. Triumph encountered the exact same issues when he put too much effort into his own plans than he did trying to work as a team. Triumph only overcame the threat of the aliens when Martian Manhunter arrived and helped Triumph learn from his mistakes. During the 0 Hour event as well, Hal Jordan was Parallax at this time, which Triumph assisted in fighting him with all the other heroes. After the long, tiresome battle, all the leagues began to reform themselves and rebuild. Martian Manhunter started a new league called the Justice League Task Force, where he offered Triumph a position. Triumph instantly accepted, and he did hold a long tenure on the team, although Martian Manhunter would eventually kick him out. Triumph hardly ever followed certain guidelines, disobeyed orders, or never consulted them in the first place. Soon after, an event with beings and creatures from the underworld started to make their appearance. A demon named Neron offered Triumph a trade. This trade would be his soul for the 10 years he lost on Earth when his existence was taken away from him. Triumph refused, but Neron left him with a candle in case he changed his mind. Once he lights it, the deal will have been made. He considered lighting it, but chose not to when he tried to make amends with Martian Manhunter at a Christmas party. Yes, even superheroes have parties of their own. Two of Triumph's teammates on the task force, the Ray and Gypsy, light his candle without knowing what it truly is. Triumph's lost 10 years are given to him, but he realizes that nothing changed with his existence. Whether he existed or not, it didn't matter. And this began his descent to villainy. Now, ending Triumph's story, later Triumph would come under the influence of a thunderbolt, or a genie named Lux. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's LKZ. Triumph set out to destroy the JLA and the JSA, and since the human brain has some electromagnetism, Triumph used that to control the minds of the Ray and Gypsy into fighting with him. While battling, Triumph expressed his disappointment and disgruntlement of how the League treats its members. During the battle, Superman tells Triumph that he was a fine Leaguer and a hero who would have been welcomed back if he just simply asked. Triumph's shocked as he hears this from Superman, but the JLA and the JSA ended up stopping him and subdued him, following with the Spectre, transforming him into an ice statue. You all remember the Spectre, and if you haven't, make sure you go check out that video. Spectre then prepared to smash the ice, but was quickly stopped from killing him. Triumph was then placed in the Justice League headquarters and was memorialized as a founding member of the Justice League. Sometime later, the villain Prometheus would raid and destroy the Watchtower. This ultimately meant that Triumph's statue was destroyed, and since he was encased inside, that meant he died as well. So that's pretty much Triumph's story. There's really nothing more to him, and like I mentioned, he was only in the comic books for about 6 years before they decided not to use him anymore. Now, there was a line of comic books in the 2000 era, I think near the 2010s, and it was called The Trinity, which was Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And in particular issues of the Trinity series, they were dealing with a crossover timeline event, and they do come across a Earth where Triumph is actually the main hero of his Earth in a world where Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman never existed. But other than that, he premiered from 1994 to 2000, made one more very slim appearance in the late 2000s, and that's all they wrote about Triumph. Even in the DC Comics Encyclopedia, there really is not that much information at all. I honestly think it's less than 50 words, to be quite honest with you. But all in all, for me and every one of you, at least we can all come together and say that we now know the story of Triumph. But that is it for this one, guys. Thank you for watching, and I really hope you did enjoy this episode of DC Character Histories. Once again, please like and leave a subscribe if you like this video, and just like usual, I will talk to you all very soon.